I thought there'd be more people. That's why I said we should do it out of town.
No. Well,
We haven't built an audience, that's the problem. And I deferred to you, you being the music people, and now I'm wishing I'd really put my foot down.
No, you should.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Union Chapel stage, Rob Brydon.
Good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. How exciting is this? It's quite funny because quite often with stuff that I do, people say to me, "Oh, are you excited about such and such? Or are you excited to be doing this or that?" And I often reply, "Well, no, I'm not excited. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not 12 years old. But I am excited about this." And I am not going to take up any more of this precious time. I will simply say, please welcome to the stage. I'm taking up a little bit of the time. How great is this? Ron and Russell Mael Sparks. Well, look at that.
Look at that.
It's 2025. This Town Ain't Big Enough came out 51 years ago. And you two...
That's a bad start, by the way.
No, it's not. No, wait. Stay with it. Stay with it. And you two come out to that response. I would say you're having a moment.
Well, thank you. No, we're thrilled at what's going on in Sparks' world at the moment, and we wouldn't have thought it would be happening like this 51 years ago. So thank you all for your kind reception.
It seems to me, Ron, that right now there's more love for Sparks than there ever was.
No, we're really finding that. You know, it's hard to kind of explain. One thing is there are more young people getting involved in interest in Sparks, and you know, while we cherish the people that have been there since forever, no offense, but such as yourself, it really is kind of energizing to us to have younger people involved. So, you know, it's hard to explain why. Part of it is through just the Edgar Wright documentary, which exposed a lot of people to us, and the Annette film, the Carax film, our musical. But some of it's just one of those things, you know.
Is it the same for you, Russell?
Exactly the same.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's always the same.
I rewatched Edgar's documentary. It's a fantastic piece of work. You know, it's as much an Edgar Wright film as it is a documentary. It's such a perfect kind of marriage. And I was reminded that looking at your parents, and you lost your father when you were very young. Were you teens then?
I was 11 and Russell was 8.
Gee whiz. And I thought about it from his perspective. It seemed as though you had a wonderful relationship with him and he was very supportive of you. And it occurred to me that if he'd known he was going to be taken, he would have been worried about his boys. And I don't want to get, we're in a church, but I don't want to get too emotional here, but if he were able to look down and see that his boys not only stayed with that strong bond and stayed happy, but if he could look down and see what his boys went on to achieve, he could only be happy.
Oh, no, we from time to time, you try not to be sentimental about those kinds of things, but you tend to also think about it occasionally and think of those things. And he was a modest person, but he was a very creative person as well. And he was involved in. He worked for a newspaper in Hollywood, but he was an artist, and he painted lots of scenes of areas near us in Santa Monica and all. And so I think the thing that I can specifically remember as the biggest gift he gave to us, a physical gift, was he came home one day and gave us a 78 of Elvis's Hound Dog and Don't Be Cruel, and also Little Richard, Long Tall Sally. So, most parents bring home their kids, some book or something. But that was kind of our education. And so, to know that your father was exposing you to Little Richard, it changes your DNA a bit.
I think he'd be thrilled to know that relationship stayed strong and then enjoyed so much success, because brothers in music don't have a fantastic track record.
No, we don't understand how all the other brothers' acts aren't making it work, at least, in their family life. We don't understand. There's all, the Kinks brothers and the Oasis brothers and the Everly brothers and all the brothers, but...
You may be the only brothers in music who see eye to eye.
I think we are.
You would think that the other brothers would, just even for financial reasons, kind of try to get along, but c'est la vie.
Have any of these other brothers ever approached you to ask for advice?
Yeah, we have a song on the new album, and it's called Do Things My Own Way, and one of the lines is, my advice, no advice. So that's what we're going to stick to.
So there's no truth in the rumor that Noel and Liam called you up, and it was after that they decided to get back together?
I think rich people don't need as much advice as others.
Yeah, why not? Here we are in England, in Britain, and it was always British acts at the beginning, wasn't it, that you looked to. What was it about the British bands that touched a nerve for you?
Well, it was so alien for us. We're from Los Angeles, and so what was going on at the time were like the Laurel Canyon kind of acts they're all fine, but it kind of wasn't our thing. And there was a certain sensibility that what they were doing, just being in blue jeans and an acoustic guitar and all that was kind of honesty in music. And then if you cared about having a show and a character and having more personality, that somehow that wasn't being honest, and we never subscribed to that. And so all the bands that came from the UK, we really responded to that, like the early Who, the early Kinks, the move, where there was like real personality and they cared about the presentation live, what they were doing. And it was so contrary to, you know, the what was going on in Laurel Canyon with, you know, torn blue jeans and all of that. And so we just responded to that, and we were really lucky that after 2 albums in LA, the first of which was produced by Todd Rundgren, but there was still, who really believed in the band. He was the only person that kind of gave us a, you know, a start when all the other record companies said absolutely not, there's nothing there. And Todd said there's something there, and so he produced the first album and signed us to his label. But unfortunately, the first 2 albums didn't do anything commercially, and so we got an offer to come to the UK with Island Records at the time and Chris Blackwell, and they really thought that there was something to the songwriting and to the singing and just our kind of overall stance. And so fortunately then we got to live our dream of becoming a British band.
It was also really strange because we came here, at their request. We didn't have any songs. We only had kind of a sensibility that they responded to, and so we didn't realize that we really should have been panicked when we came here. But fortunately, we were able to come up with the songs then that became Kimono My House.
Thank God he wrote This Town Ain't Big Enough for Both of Us. Lord knows we didn't want to get shipped back on the first plane to LA.
We'd be working at a convenience store in Los Angeles now.
We'd be a Laurel Canyon band again.
Yeah.
That's my first memory of you, and I'm sure a lot of people's first memory was This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us. It's just so arresting and so different. And then you, sir. No, you, sir. You at the keyboard. What the hell is that? I mean, I vividly remember, what's happening there? Who's he? What's that? And it was just, how much was that? No, sorry, not that. I don't mean that and point to you. How much was that aesthetic constructed between you? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to kind of be very mysterious. How did that come about?
The odd thing is, I mean, maybe it would sound more intelligent if we said that we had figured out a whole plan, but we never worked that way. And so at the time, the rest of the band were all kind of looking semi-British, but it didn't kind of work with what that is. And so I kind of tried to go the other direction. And even at that time when we played in Los Angeles, it didn't really have much effect. When we came to the UK and there were close-ups, in particular on Top of the Pops, it had this kind of effect that I never really, imagined it would have. And so it was just one of those fortunate things that really wasn't really thought out or planned out. It just, the right thing at the right time.
He used to have hair, kind of big, kind of an afro thing going, and then when he got to London, just decided to go counter to that whole thing, and he got all his hair cut off and slicked back. And fun fact, in 1974, they didn't sell hair gel. Fun fact.
No, the hair place that I got my hair cut, they recommended KY jelly to honestly that it hardened in the way that hair gel now does.
There's a detail we didn't need to know.
No, I'm sorry. I promise to avoid those details from now on.
So are you saying then, Ron, that you were doing that, and then they were doing the close-ups, and you saw it was coming across, and so you did it a little more? You just went, you rode the horse in the direction it was traveling?
Well, in a certain sense, I mean, let's just say I was aware that was going on, and tried not to look like I was that I was bored while the camera was on me, you know. But it wasn't like, you know, it was so counter to kind of a typical rock kind of thing that's kinetic, and I was sort of anti-kinetic, and kind of still am, to be honest.
We didn't. Also, just the power of Top of the Pops at the time was something that we were kind of just so shocked about, because you know, at the time there were, I think, three TV stations, so you kind of knew at that time that probably about a third of the entire country was going to be watching that show, and just like overnight we were so shocked, because we were doing the same thing in LA that we had done prior to coming here, but you know, playing in front of 10 waitresses at the Whiskey A Go Go, and then we came here, and then one time on Top of the Pops, and then all of a sudden everything changes really fast, and everybody saying how scared they are of Ron, and they hiding behind their sofa. Even to this day, sometimes we'll get into a taxi or something, and the guy will go, "Oh, you're the guy, you scared me. I had to hide behind my sofa." That was my British accent, in case you didn't know.
I was going to ask where that man came from. He's travelled, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
No, I was thinking...
I'm not as good of impersonations as Rob, so yeah.
And I'm not as good at becoming legendary figures in the world of music as Russell and Ron. It's interesting, though, because you seem so much to just do your own thing, and people have to come to you, that hearing you say that you did that thing and you noticed the reaction reminded me of a story about Elvis, where he said, I shook my leg and they all started to scream, so I thought, I'll shake it a bit more, which is basically seeing what people like and leaning into it. But I've always thought of you two as just having your own thing and going with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's fortunate because, we were able, we don't have the ability to kind of mold ourselves into something else, for better or worse. And, other people have always made suggestions towards us about, well, in order to do this and succeed in this way, you should become this or that. But we had just the advice of Todd Rundgren from the very beginning that, just said, don't worry about that. And we didn't realize what a novelty it was to have that kind of person guiding you from an early stage. And so it wasn't like that we were kind of angling it to be anti everything else. It just was natural for us.
In those early days, in the success of Kimono My House, I was amazed to read that Propaganda, which was the album that I kind of joined you with, came out 6 months after Kimono?
Yeah, we didn't even realize that either until more recently, that we had done 2 albums in that short of a period of time, and then we also were touring constantly, and so we don't even remember where we took the time to write songs even. And now just also things seem to take longer too, that albums don't come out that rapidly, that there's always this gap of time. And so it was kind of just a different time.
Well, 2 things that you talked about getting lots of younger fans that they'd find very hard to understand is you mentioned that the impact of Top of the Pops, I mean, that's gone now so far away, it's not even a speck in the distance. And the amount of stuff, you look at the Beatles and how the turnover of albums and stuff. Is there any part of you that misses that sort of release schedule?
Oh, no, absolutely. It just, for us, it's just, kind of, I think, having that kind of pressure in a good way to come up with stuff and to do it quickly sometimes leads to doing things more interestingly or trying new things. And so, like, we kind of I mean, maybe that's why we just kind of are so active now, that despite there not being a Top of the Pops to, that's that kind of in your face all the time, we just like to keep, we work all the time. So we are kind of dictating our own schedule, even if things take a little while longer to surface and be released, we're always working anyway.
You mentioned the love of films, and you mentioned your dad, and that kind of culminated, didn't it, with Annette, which is just the most perfect marriage. I mean, it's the minute you start watching it, you go, this is what a film from Sparks should be, from the minute it begins. And I was saying to you, Ron, earlier that I put a thing out on Instagram today asking for questions, and I've got some of them here, and I sang a little bit of Reinforcements, which is one of my favorites. I'm on guard again and unprepared to fend for myself in a battle. You won't tell me why the shrubbery moves. It's kind of you to sit there like that. The reason I sing it is, where the hell does that come from? I'm on guard again, but unprepared to fend for myself in a battle. You won't tell me why the shrubbery moves or why there has to be subterfuge. Now, where does that begin?
Well, I think, we just always, we like cinema a lot and movies a lot. And
a lot of us like the cinema, Russell, but... But we wouldn't think, I'm going to write a song, I'm on guard again, but unprepared to fend for myself in a battle.
No, I mean, I guess that we really enjoy being able to create something in 3 minutes that is sort of like, in our minds at least, a little mini movie. And you don't need a $40 million budget to be able to write a song like that, but you can conjure in your own mind a scenario that is kind of in its way a short film. And so I think that's kind of adopted that. I mean, we don't talk about it all the time and have board meetings discussing what our next little mini film will be, but I think it's just the thing also, we really enjoy having detail in the songs, like really specific details that kind of get amplified way out of proportion some of the time, and it takes on kind of this cinematic quality when you kind of focus in really on some small detail, and then it becomes way too important in a certain way, and we enjoy that.
Yeah, a lot of people that write great songs, they write in a more general sense, but we like to have details start from specific things that maybe seem like too small of an issue to even write a song about, but have it have some kind of subtext that maybe has more meaning. And so that's kind of the way. And also, not all of our songs, but we do tend to have things that have a start, a beginning, and an end as far as to the story of the song. And I think that's why we really enjoy working on Annette, to be able to do that for 2 hours, to actually write something that makes sense in a linear kind of way. It was a challenge to sustain that for that long, but we loved the process.
Specifically, right, because I think a lot of us hear songs, enjoy songs, and want to specifically know where the ideas come from. So let's just for a second on This Town, right? What gives you the idea to go, zoo time, it's she and you time, the mammals are your favorites?
Well, that song was started kind of with just the idea, well, what if we just made like kind of a Western kind of movie and used a cliche, This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us, as the title of it, which is not exactly the choice of a title that just flows off the tongue quite so easily, like, something more palatable maybe. But and then it was like kind of once we started writing the lyrics, it kind of developed into each verse of the song being a separate movie kind of image, really, about flying and well, taking showers of certain kind of films. And so it was kind of splitting it up that kind of way. And so it was based on, originally just on the idea of it being, of taking a Western cliche, and then it kind of developed into being separate films within the song. And you know, there was the most time that we spent on the song was actually figuring out whether those gunshots in the song were appropriate or in bad taste, you know. And so we spent quite a bit of time debating whether the gunshots were something that needed to be there.
And originally we had the gunshots actually in every single verse. There were gunshots too, because we thought that was cool. And then we said maybe that's not cool. So then we scaled back to just one in the beginning and then one in the middle.
Well, it's funny you should say that, the gunshots, because I have a question which is about lyrics again. And I wanted to ask, are you able to write? How has the lyric writing changed as a result of your lived experience? You were writing those songs as young men, the ones we've mentioned. You're now in your late 40s, early 50s.
39.
39 for you, and you're, what, 41 now?
About 41. 41-ish.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard,
I'm
yes.
senile enough to not even hold the microphone up to my mouth.
You know, at 41, Ron, I would worry about that. The way, are you now seeing different things? And the song I want to come to mentions guns as well, which is one of my favorite from the new album, Mad. If you haven't already got it, do buy it. Wouldn't it be nice if it was #1? Which is a little bit of light banter, which I think is wonderful. Now, a little bit of light banter, then we say goodnight. A little bit of light banter, then we turn off the light. What is your angle on this? Are you saying that at a certain age, that's nice? Or are you mocking those of us who go to sleep with a little bit of light banter?
Well, it's actually supposed to be an affectionate look at a couple. Well,
good, I'm glad.
I'm trying to affirm your kind of understanding of the song.
I think you're just saying that to make me feel good. I don't think this. You are God.
I am, yes. But it really is supposed to be not kind of looking down at this couple who kind of quaint in their ways, that they still think light banter is something that is something worth doing in the evenings, not discussing, you know, the world stage or films with violence and all. And so, you know, we try not to be cruel looking at the characters that we are writing, if we are writing about characters, and but writing about them in kind of a non-cloying kind of way as well. And so, you know, it's a tricky balance.
Paul McCartney had a song a few years ago called My Ever-Present Past. And we were just chatting before we came on that people in your position are constantly having to re-examine their past, whereas someone who does what you might term a normal job is not constantly being reminded of what they did in 1976 or 1979. And knowing how much you like to move forward all the time, how do you reconcile the two?
Well, I think part of the reason we're doing what we're doing now is that we're obviously really proud of our past and all that, but we try to, you know, not look back and to try to do things now that don't seem like they're coming from a band with a 28 album long history. And if someone were to pick up the new album that has no knowledge of Sparks, that they would be, would think it doesn't sound like it's a band with that long of a history, and that it would encapsulate everything that we've ever stood for or represented, even in album #1, but it's all there in this new album. So despite being incredibly proud of our past, we kind of, you know, maybe it's sad in a certain way that you kind of don't get the time or the opportunity or the desire to kind of, you know, reflect on things in the past. But the other side of it is we're just so excited to be doing what we're doing now and to kind of almost continue to prove a point almost that it's possible to do stuff this far into your career that's kind of, we feel, equally challenging and equally provocative and doesn't sound like a band that's had this long a history.
There's a fantastic energy to this record, and you're saying that it doesn't sound like a band who've done 28 albums and I get it, you know, and are mellowing a little. When you go into a new project, Ron, do the two of you have an overarching idea for it, or does that happen as the material develops?
It really is the latter. I mean, the only times I think that we've had went into an album with an overall concept exactly of what we wanted was working with Giorgio Moroder on Number One in Heaven album, and then also maybe the Little Beethoven album where we wanted to work in ways that weren't kind of a standard instrumentation on a rock album. But in general, we start with the songs, and then you hope that in the end it kind of makes some kind of sense. And you know, so much of that is in the end is also just the order of the songs and that sort of thing. But we don't really, the one thing we do is start from zero on every single album. We don't retain any material from past albums, any kind of second-rate things that'll help pad out, you know, number 9 song on an album, because I don't know why, for us it always feels tainted. So we start from zero, but usually without any idea of where we're going.
And this new one, Mad, has just come out now. You've been doing a lot of promotion for it. You're then about to tour. When will you then begin to think about the next one?
Yeah, good. Well, we're actually we're working on a new movie musical, actually. So we are working now, even though we're going on tour as well. We got the bug with Annette so much that we wanted to try another narrative project again, and so we have a new film that we're working on. So in between shows and stuff, we're still carrying on with this new project, and it's going to be directed by John Woo, and it's surprising. It was surprised us.
I didn't see that one coming.
In true Sparks fashion, yeah, to have a movie musical by John Woo. But we had this new project. It's called Excrucior, and we were looking for a director, and there was an article in the Los Angeles Times, an interview with John Woo, and he said the one thing in his career that he hasn't yet done that he wants to do is a movie musical. And we're kind of like, what? And and he's known for his amazing action films, and so the other thing he said too in that article was that one of his favorite films was The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is one of our favorite musicals and favorite films. So that also seemed unlikely coming from John Woo. So we got in touch with him, and he lives in Los Angeles. We found out about, and then a couple days later, he's sitting in our studio listening to this whole project, and we thought, even though he wants to do a musical, is he going to want to do a Sparks musical? And he sat there for the whole 2 hours, and he said, "This is amazing. I want to direct it." So, yeah.
I think I speak for us all when I say, hurry up and make it.
Believe me, we're trying.
You mentioned Giorgio Moroder, Ron, number 1 song in Heaven, Tryouts of the Human Race, Beat the Clock, all this. Such a strong sound and a huge success for you. And that was it's happened several times in your career where it just brought you back, bang, into the spotlight. When you work with someone who has as distinct a sound as Giorgio Moroder. Is there any part of you that wonders how the two will marry? Will it become less of a Sparks thing, more of a Giorgio Moroder thing?
No, absolutely. I think that kind of unknown is something that we really enjoy entering, you know, and I think Giorgio, to his credit, also felt the same thing. He wanted to work with a rock band, but he didn't know what, you know, he usually worked with great singers like Donna Summer and all, but not with people with a band sensibility. So, it was a really amazing period in not knowing what the final result would be. And you know, we obviously were pleased with the results, but we took quite a bit of flack from critics at the time, saying, "Well, wait a minute, I thought you were a rock band, and what you're doing." Disco, and we, you know, from our perspective, it was just electronic music, putting ourselves in kind of a atmosphere of electronics, but just the general public kind of grasped what we were doing much more quickly than the kind of more cynical press.
And how did the process work? Was it at all like the famous story of Nile Rodgers and David Bowie with Let's Dance? And I believe Let's Dance had a very different, almost folky sound to it, I've heard. And then Nile did his thing. What was the #1 song in heaven before it arrived with Giorgio Moroder?
Yeah, I mean, some of them were a different form. Oh, even Beat the Clock, I remember he wrote it on an acoustic guitar. So at first, you thought it was like a Velvet Underground song.
How would that have gone?
Probably not as well.
Yeah.
No,
How might it have sounded, Russell?
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't have a good Velvet Underground impression.
He's not going to do it. I tried.
Yeah, I know. But it didn't sound like how Beat the Clock sounds now. But, you know, and with Giorgio, it was a really great process, because none of us knew what the outcome was going to be, and sometimes those are the best situations when you go into a project and you have no clue what this is going to sound like. And I think Giorgio felt the same way, because he'd never worked with a band before, and so just went in really naively, and he was great with electronics. He taught us a lot about electronics, and for him, we were something really different too, because these songs, though they had really, a pulse to them and all, the lyrical slant was still the slant that we had from the beginning, and Giorgio wasn't used to that kind of thing, like, ooh, I feel love, 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 and so these were doing tryouts for the human race about sperm talking and stuff like that. So for Giorgio, it was a bit different lyrically. But he got with the program. And
did he at any point say to you, "My name is Giorgio, people call me George"?
He said exactly that, I think, over and over. No, what he did say was, "Boys, we need a hit."
Is that what he said? I love that.
No, he did, swear to God.
Oh, I love that. And you said, "Okay, what do you think of this?"
What do you think of a song that sounds like the Velvet Underground?
I'm not so sure, boys. I think maybe we have to make it more beat the clock, go to beat the clock.
The one thing you do as a band when you're working with somebody like Giorgio Moroder, who we had, immense respect for, is you give up a little bit of your kind of independence.
Yeah.
But in a good way, because you're kind of taking on what you've asked them to bring to you, and so that's kind of an understanding, and he's a very strong person, but not kind of unreasonable, and so that's kind of the relationship. Whenever you work with a great producer like Tony Visconti or even, we didn't know at the time, but Todd Rundgren or Muff Winwood, you're always giving up, relinquishing a certain amount of your independence, but with the thought that you're going to grasp something, gain something from that relationship.
And hopefully, at the end of it, you will be more than the sum of your parts, because they bring something to the table that isn't there without them.
No, exactly. Well phrased.
Which bit? More than the sum of their parts, or bringing something to the table that wasn't there before?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah.
That's high praise indeed.
Yeah.
I was telling Ron and Russell backstage, I forget the reason, that sometimes if I get home late after a gig, I'll have a bowl of Cheerios with oat milk and hate myself for it afterwards because I can't sleep because of the sugar. But and I asked them if they could try and put Cheerios with oat milk into a song. So please do watch. It probably won't be the film, but the next release after that.
No, but
I'd like some sort of firm commitment.
No, the screenplay is still open to certain kind of individual domestic scenes, so I think we can include that in.
All right, it's an exciting time to be alive, isn't it? Collaborations, Franz Ferdinand, and in Edgar's film, we learn how one of the first things when they talk about collaborating, you send them which track?
Collaborations don't work.
which of course they take as a challenge, and then it goes back and forth.
Yeah, it was a really cool process doing it. We wrote that album kind of 5,000 miles apart from them, and we'd send tapes back and forth, and then later went in and kind of it was also a way of working again that we hadn't done in quite a while, with working with an actual band again. We've started working now. We've done I think something like 15 albums now in my studio, in my place, where we don't think in terms of like a band having to rehearse songs, first choose all the songs and be really firm about what you want to record, then rehearse those songs, then go into a commercial studio and try to record them in a timely way, because the clock is running and it's costing a ton of money. So we don't work that way. It's a different way of working now, which we really actually prefer. However, for the Franz Ferdinand, for the FFS project, we went back to that way of working where we actually did compile a bunch of songs that we all agreed upon, and then we went into a rehearsal studio and rehearsed with them as a band, with the two of us and the four of them, and we then went into Rack Studios here in London and recorded that album. So voila.
Voila, indeed. On Instagram today, I asked people if they had any questions for you. I'm going to read a few out, and we will also be taking questions from the floor. There'll be microphones coming around, so if you have a question, give it some thought. Don't waste it. Make it a good one. But first of all, Jan Taus, who says, I hope to be there this evening. Did you get here, Jan Taus? Oh, dear. Oh, yes, no, Jan Taus did. Jan Taus, quiet Jan Taus, has made it here. Well done. And Jan Taus says, which one quality do they, by which she means you two, most admire about the other? Russell, what do you most admire about Ron?
No, he's pretty capable of writing lyrics that are not your middle of the road sort of lyrics, and I think that's a real gift. That with songs even on the new album where there's some songs, relationship songs, and it's kind of finding new ways to treat things that have always existed in pop music. Like there's always been relationship songs for whatever 70 years now that pop music has existed, but finding new ways to treat those subjects, and I think that's a a talent. And there's a song on the album called Jansport Backpack.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of my favorite lyrics and titles on the album. And it's taking a Jansport backpack, this, just kind of common backpack that's really popular, but it becomes a symbol of this relationship that is on the rocks. And so the guy in this song only sees his girlfriend as she's leaving this relationship, but he sees her from behind, and the Jansport backpack becomes, a symbol for him of how sad it is that this relationship is kind of over. So I think, in answer to your question, that's he can come up with ideas like that that I wouldn't have come up with.
Well, and that little bit of light banter thing, you talk about relationships, that's an angle on relationships that I've not heard in a song before.
Exactly. No, I
You've
agree
got a
with you.
little bit more time to think, Ron, because
Yeah.
that Jansport backpack, again, I want to be specific. Where did you get that idea? Did you see a Jansport backpack moving away from you, and did you think to yourself, oh, that could be a relation? I mean, answer me, damn it. Where did that come from?
Well, we were in, we travel a lot, and so I try to observe people quite a bit, and it isn't like I'm taking notes, but we noticed when we were in Japan that a lot of the young women were wearing what in the U.S. anyway is a very functional piece of armor, a Jansport backpack, but as a kind of a fashion statement. And you'd see them walking away, and just that image stuck with me. And so I thought, well, it isn't like important to write a song just about Jansport backpacks. Then it becomes just a novelty tune, but to find a way to have some emotional angle to it. So the fact that a Jansport backpack could be viewed as a symbol of a breakup where a girl is leaving a guy and his image is not even of her, but of seeing this backpack moving away from him continuously. So, in general, we're not inspired by what's going around, at least consciously, but in that case, it was being in Japan and seeing a lot of Japanese women walking away from us. So.
Almost instinctively.
Yeah.
You've had a long time to think about this. What is the one quality about Russell that you admire?
Well, I mean, every band needs somebody good-looking and sexy, so that's his main quality. Every band does. I mean, a band that values visuals.
How do you feel about that answer?
Oh, I don't know.
I was paid well for it. So.
Yeah.
Jackie L. King. Is Jackie L. King here? Yes, good. Well, this is your question. Where do they see themselves in 10 years?
Oh, Lord.
Oh, I hope not.
Well, like we talked about earlier, we're kind of so absorbed in what we do that we don't even, it's a serious answer, I guess, to that question. But just, we just want to keep working and coming up with music that we think is vital and provocative in all sorts of ways. So, and the thing of wanting to continue to do movie musicals and this next project we have. And so, I mean, it's a strange thing to think that you've been doing this for such a long time and that you still have amazing, exciting goals that you want to be doing. So that's all.
Ron?
Ditto.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheryl, Alfie, Bailey, Dobby, with underscores in between each of those words. Are you here? No. No, but it's my family. Good. What songs/albums are they most proud of? Which are the most difficult to play? And could Rob do This Town as Ronnie Corbett? Now, we have to clarify. Do Ron and Russell Mael, are they aware of Ronnie Corbett?
We are, and I think that the third part of that question should be done first.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Good heavens. This town, this town ain't big enough for the both of us. And it ain't me who's going to leave. Thank you. Enough of this frivolity. Which are the songs that are most difficult to play? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch that are, for me, harder, because, well, most bands, they have, like, instrumental sections in them, so the singer gets to kind of have a resting period live while that instrumental's going on. Our songs, for whatever reason, we don't have very many instrumental passages, so our shows are kind of wall-to-wall singing, and his lyrics are like way too many lyrics and rarely repeating the same lyrics for, you know, the next verse or chorus. Things tend to keep changing. So I don't get a break ever to kind of be appreciating the evening and like just kind of coasting, because I'm always panicked about having to breathe and to remember all the lyrics. So those ones, there's a lot of those, yeah.
Talking about the singer having a rest, I interviewed Tom Jones once, and I said, I've just been listening to you in Las Vegas in 1969. I said, you do a lot of talking in between the songs, like entertaining the audience. I said, is that because, you know, there's a bit of the comedian, is that you like to do that? He said, no. He said, it meant we could drop a song to rest his voice. It was as simple and practical as that.
Well, we'll maybe take that advice on our...
Just start chatting to the audience.
Yeah.
We'll only be doing 10 songs in the upcoming tour rather than 20. So.
Well, I was saying to Ron before we came out, a nice idea, and this is quite avant-garde, is that you go to see Sparks, but you literally just go to see them. And they sit or stand, probably sit if it's a long time, and you can come as close as you want. So they're like a living exhibit. I think people would pay for that. Man, we went to see Sparks yesterday. It was wonderful. And you get really close, all around, have a good look, and that's it.
Yeah, no sound checks, you know.
Nothing.
I love it. All right.
Right, we're going to come to the audience.
To our agent.
We're going to come to the audience in a moment. Matt Hutch, 1, 2, 3. No. Whatever happened to the plane wreck on the cover of Indiscreet? Any chance it's in a warehouse in LA waiting for the Sparks exhibition?
I'm not sure where it went, but it was a real plane crash, and it was at an airport in the Valley in Los Angeles, and we had that idea for the cover, and so rather than going into a studio to try to recreate something like that, that's actually a backdrop behind the plane. The plane was still at the airport. It was under investigation about what happened in that crash. And so they allowed us to take the airplane, but to set up one of those Hollywood fake backdrops behind it that's like a suburban street. So it gave the impression that we were still outside in a suburbia where that plane had crashed, but it's actually all set up, but it is outside too.
It raises a serious point. How much do you keep your stuff?
I've got lots of stuff that I keep. Yeah, I like, except for the plane. The plane wasn't ours, so we couldn't keep it.
But you consciously keep stuff, curating it almost with a view to perhaps one day having some sort of exhibition.
Yeah, well, I keep a lot of the old stage clothes.
Yeah.
I have the boots, the riding boots from the In the Street cover. I bought them at Harrods when we were living here. They used to have, I don't know if they still do, have a riding section, for horse riding. And so I went to the horse riding
They used to sell pets. I don't know if they do anymore. You went to Harrods today.
I did, and it was a nightmare.
You didn't enjoy it?
It wasn't what I remembered when we used to live here. There's a line out, 11:30, they're all in line waiting to get into Harrods. You have to wait in line. It's a store.
I'm with you. Ron, do you keep any of the stuff?
There are things that I should have kept. There's one album of ours, I don't know how well it's known, but Angst in My Pants, and so...
Yeah, that's pretty well known.
For some reason, which I can't explain, I was wearing a wedding dress on the cover. I've matured since then, but I gave it away to the local LA radio station that was playing us heavily, and they've kind of changed their format since then, and they've probably thrown it out. So I wish I had been more selfish and kept that.
We'll do one more of these, then I'm going to come to the audience. It's from Billy Barnell, 96, who says, so excited to attend tonight. Billy, are you here? Well done. What was it like meeting Paul McCartney after he dressed as Ron in the video for Coming Up?
We haven't met Paul McCartney.
You've never met Paul McCartney?
Is that sad?
Have you not met him?
We've not met him.
I've met Paul McCartney.
Well, we haven't met
If
him.
I've met Paul McCartney, you should have basically lived with him.
I know. No, he was really cool to do. In case those who don't know it,
They've come to an evening with Sparks.
Okay.
Is there anybody here who is unaware that he dressed up as Ron in the Coming Up video? Don't put your hand up, please, just to prove my point. Damn. Yeah, well, that idiot there. But other than that...
Okay, so everybody knows. So anyway, yeah, no, we never met Paul McCartney, but we know the guitar player for Paul McCartney's band now, and we were talking with him one day, and there was a poster of Ron that I think it was the Linda McCartney photo of Paul dressed as Ron in that video. So we had asked our friend who's in McCartney's band if one day he could get Paul to sign it. So we do have a signed Paul McCartney dressed as Ron Mael, taken by Linda McCartney, photo in our studio.
There was one time when it was a song Coming Up that he performed as a lot of different other people, and I was honored just to be imitated the keyboard player. He imitated me for that video, and it was on a show that's very popular in the U.S. called Saturday Night Live, where a band plays live, and McCartney's band played, and they showed that video as well. And so that week I went to the Cleaners, and he had done such a good job imitating me that the worker at the Cleaners, I saw you on TV the last week, and I didn't have the heart to break it to him that it was somebody slightly even more famous than me. So.
What did it mean to be serious? What did it mean to you when Paul McCartney?
I don't know what it meant to him, but
Yeah.
God,
What did it mean to you?
It meant it was cool. I just wish he had a singer in his group too, but But no,
He could never have captured your ethereal beauty.
No, he wouldn't have. No, but I was incredibly proud that he picked Ron to be the the keyboard player for that group.
And how do you get to hear about that? Is it someone says, "Hey, have you heard Paul McCartney?" I mean, how does that get filtered through to you?
I can't even remember. I guess we just saw the video. Somebody told us there's a video for that coming up song, and
I mean, it's not as if somebody's going to ask permission and you're going to say, "Nah, I'm not going to do it." So I think it was a rather easy decision to make if there was one at the time.
Yeah. Well, I remember it vividly. Let's see who has a question. Well, I've seen a bearded man with spectacles. That's him. And actually it wasn't him. There was another. There are a lot of bearded, spectacled men here. So that's the man I saw. Hello, what is your name?
Hello, my name's Alan.
Hello, Alan. Go ahead.
Hi, Ron Russell.
Hi there.
In the early 2000s, you did a tour where you done your 21 albums in chronological order. I was wondering if you'd set a date to do the next 28, and what venues you'd be doing it at.
Also, it was done in Islington too. So when we were coming here today, we remembered the path we took every day of those 21 nights coming to Islington from kind of West London every night. So it brought back memories that we had from playing in those 21 nights. But I don't think that we ever want to do that again. It was a kind of a living nightmare. Despite, we're really proud of it, but we don't think that any band that even has it's 21 albums then, but 28 albums now, would even consider doing it if they knew the amount of work. So we still have a challenge out to any other band in the world that we think that no one else will ever do that, because it was 4 months of rehearsals to do that, and then each day before the show, you'd kind of be trying to remember that album's, all of the details of that album, all the lyrics, how everything goes. But then the next day, when you had the next album to do, you have to, erase from your mind the first night's album. And so it kept going on for 21 of those. And I mean, it was over, I don't know, I think it was something like 350 songs, something like that, I think, that we did. And so we're proud that we did it, but God, we'll never do it again.
There's he's spectacled, he has a COVID mask. I can't tell if he's bearded, but what is your name?
My name's Rafter, and I love you guys, and thanks for all of your dedication and just the amount of service you've given to the human race. Thanks.
Thank you.
My question is, I've read about your amazing work ethic and the amount of time and energy you put into writing, and I wonder how many songs are left behind versus what comes out on the album, knowing that you write every day and that you've made so many amazing records, but I can only imagine there's probably thousands. So what's that like? What's the leftovers?
Well, I mean, there's leftovers, but like Ron had mentioned earlier, they're probably leftovers, at least in our minds, for a reason, and they just didn't kind of stir us enough to want to put them out or to finish them even. So, there are songs there, but we don't think that they're up to the standard to be heard. There's nothing in our minds that's the hidden gem that hasn't surfaced.
Oh, well, there we are. Now then, let's find somebody who isn't spectacled and isn't. There's that. Well, she is spectacled, but there we are. Hello, what's your name?
My name's Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Hi
Feel
there.
free.
I'd like to ask you both, obviously you've had a very long career with some ups and maybe some downs, and I'd like to know how you fortify yourselves, how you keep yourselves going when times are hard.
Great question.
Well, I mean, we're just, I think those times when things are going less well are the times almost that we then are forced to come up with a solution to the problem. You know, the one solution is just kind of pack it in and don't do anything. But we've always found that those times kind of motivate us even to do something that will get you out of that situation. And you know, so it seems like every time that there's been some roadblock in the way, we've taken it even more as a challenge to kind of fight back and prove that you know, everybody's wrong. And so we've come back with something, and fortunately it's always worked. There was one time, it was in Germany, that we you know, we just didn't have much going on at the time, even though, you know, albums were always coming out, but there wasn't a lot of visibility. And all of a sudden, you know, Ron wrote this song, When Do I Get to Sing My Way? Then all of a sudden, that became one of the biggest songs that we've ever had. But had the song not been written, then nothing would have happened, you know. So we kind of have learned not to kind of stew too long in a situation that's not kind of happening, and kind of find a path out of it somehow.
We've always had kind of a us versus them attitude, even if we don't even know who them is, you know, at the time. And so it kind of, I don't know, it just motivates you to kind of have a chip on your shoulder, and that's been there kind of, you know, throughout our history.
Okay, let's go further back. I saw that lady first, sorry. The blonde lady with her hand up in the air. Her hand's gone down now, but it was. Hello, what's your name?
Hello, you two. It's nice to see you. I know we didn't really want to talk about the past, but I thought perhaps we could have a little bit of a reflection. And my question is, if you had a TARDIS or a time machine, which one of your shows would you go back and see? And what would you wear? Would you steal one of your old outfits and go back and watch your show?
Which of your shows would you go back to?
Well, I mean, it's not even going back that far, but just even here in London, the Royal Albert Hall, the last tour. We had come to England in the early 70s, and we actually lived for a while not that far from Royal Albert Hall, and I think I even mentioned it that night when we played, or one of the nights. In any case, we used to walk in front of it, you know, every day and go, one day, you know, we'll, but then, you know, it was sort of just a dream, and then to finally get to play there 2 nights that were sold out, you know, that was a dream. So it's not going back that far but that tour, and in particular getting to play there, and, you know, also that same tour we played the Hollywood Bowl in LA, and we played Sydney Opera House. So, you know, those kind of things for us are really special.
Good question, good answer. Let's go over there. There we are, that chap there with his hand up. Hello, what's your name?
Hi, it's Matthew. Great to see you both. You always talk about your love of cinema. I just want to know what it was like working with Sam Peckinpah for Funny Face.
It actually, that isn't the case. We didn't work with him. Period.
No. There we are. Right, let's... Now there's a lady that he had his chance, and you dragging Sam Peckinpah into it. We don't want things to get bloody. Yes, there's a better research next time.
No, but I will add something.
Oh,
to that.
You did work with Sam Peckinpah.
No, we didn't. But somehow there's certain mythology that surrounds certain videos and stuff. And actually, about like 5 months ago, we got a message from the head of the Cannes Film Festival, who was working as a publisher for for a friend of his who was writing a book on Sam Peckinpah. And so the head of the Cannes Film Festival, who we've gotten to know because of our films that we get at Cannes all the time, he has the through line to us. And so he got in touch and he said he wanted to talk about Sam Peckinpah's, what it was like working with Sam Peckinpah. So we had to tell him too, unfortunately, we never worked with Sam Peckinpah and he didn't do that video, and we don't know how that got started, that rumor, so.
Well, there we are. If you take one thing away with you tonight,
it's that Sam Peckinpah never worked with us.
Nothing to do with them. Now, there was the girl there. Can you see, where's the microphone gone? Come around here. And there's a girl with kind of a greenish, very lovely hair. There we are. Hello. What's your name?
My name's Alam.
Off you go.
I was also kind of thinking about music videos and how you were talking about the songs kind of having their own narrative and being able to stretch it out and do whatever you want with it. And when you're making music videos, do you kind of think about how to further the world of the song following the narrative, or do you want to go like completely against it? And also, do you have a favorite music video? Mine is Cool Places, because it looks exactly how the song sounds and it makes me really happy. But thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it varies. Like from the new album, one of the songs was there's a video for Drown in a Sea of Tears. So for that video, we wanted to kind of make it be more literal and specific to the lyric of the song. But then there's other ones that I'm trying to think. Even Do Things My Own Way, the first video from the album, I mean, it's not really related specifically to a lyric in the song. And it's just kind of this incident of, like, I'm just walking in one continuous long shot that just keeps going and going and going, but it doesn't really have something specific to do with that lyric. So I think both ways, and it just kind of depends on the song.
You are correct.
There's people standing just over there, so they're quite enthusiastic. So let's see if we can get there. Your technique worked. Well done. Good strategy. Here we go. Hello, what is your name?
I'm Amy.
Hi.
So I'm a teenager, and I was wondering if you have any tips for teens.
We kind of addressed that on the new album, My Advice, No Advice. So.
Very good question. Okay, let's go back there. Can somebody come to that? I'm sorry about the people on the balcony. If you were loud, it's actually quite hard to see you as well. You really have drawn the short straw. Sorry about that. Virtually impossible to see you. There we are, the chap wearing the stripy jumper. Hello, what is your name?
Hi, thank you. Great to see you guys.
Doesn't want us to know his name.
Sorry, my name's Chris. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we've touched on the fact that you've done the FFS. I was lucky enough to be living in France when you did the collaboration with Lerita Mitsuko. Absolutely loved it. Question is, who are Sparks listening to now? And if you were going to collaborate with anybody today, who would it be?
Well, we listen to lots and lots of stuff now. One thing was we were really excited about what we heard last dinner party doing. First of all, we read about them, and a lot of the reviews mentioned that there seemed to be some Sparks DNA in what they were doing, and then they followed by doing a cover of This Town Ain't Big Enough for Both of Us. So we really liked that a lot, and we've spoken to them, and we don't know for sure, but maybe something could happen in the future, and who knows.
We also are interested in working with people that are not at all working stylistically like us. We played a festival in Spain several years ago, and Public Enemy were playing, and so I don't know, we got the guts to go up to Chuck D and ask if he'd sometime like to do something together, you know, once again, in kind of a similar thing like with Giorgio Moroder, where you have no clue what the final result would be. And he was open. I mean, he didn't kind of slam the door on me. He seemed like really genuinely interested. So, I don't know if that will happen, but it would be something we would really, really like to pursue.
I think we have time for maybe one or two more. Maybe it'd be fair to find another area where we haven't. There we are. There's somebody doing the two-handed wave there. There you go. Not long now. Hello, what is your name?
Hello, I'm Kate.
Hello, Kate.
I just want to say I'm an absolutely massive fan. I'm just beyond excited to be here tonight. My question, I know and I've read in a lot of places that your mum was very, very supportive of your career. I just wondered what was her favourite Sparks song and what was her favourite Sparks album?
Yeah, she's one of those moms that because we're both going to university, and when we started telling her that we're kind of really interested in having a band, and then we started wanting to move off to England and all of that. At first it was like, oh, why don't you do something that's practical with your life? You can get a degree in this or that, And then once she saw us on Top of the Pops, she said, those are my boys, and she knew it all along that's what that was our calling in life. So she was incredibly supportive, and she was just looking after us, I think, by saying, do something, become a doctor or something. But
did she have specific songs that she was fond of?
Probably This Town Ain't Big Enough for both of us would have been the one that she would have liked the most, just because that was the first time that there was a reaction to us that wasn't kind of like what she probably thought the reaction would be forever.
Good question. Right, maybe one more. Let me see. What? Oh, she's got the ants in her pants shirt, so fair enough. Maybe it should be you then. Would you like to ask a question, or were you just telling me you've got a T-shirt? Okay.
I do have a T-shirt.
What is your name?
It's Paggy, P-A-G-G-Y. Oh, I'm so excited. So my question is, over the years, how has your relationship with touring changed? Like, what do you do to keep saying, like, because I do a lot of gigs where it's really hard to, like, have the other parts in your life in check and just, like, stay healthy, do the things you want to do. So, yeah, how do you find touring now compared to when you started your career?
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, in particular, it's important for Russell because singing is more of kind of a physical and athletic kind of adventure as much as it is, just a creative kind of thing. And he really cares for himself, both in a general health kind of way, but also just as far as his voice. He can tell you the story, but just. Tony Bennett had mentioned in one interview that he drinks a lot of water when he's on tour, and so it sounds pretty mundane, but that kind of really helps because we're probably one of the few bands that have been around so long. We really, really want to keep playing the songs in the original key, and it's especially. I mean, it's easy for a keyboard player, but for Russell, it requires a great amount of preparation, and so
you play them in the original key almost effortlessly.
Effortlessly, yeah. It's like second nature.
I don't know why Russell makes such a bloody fuss about it. You never moan about that.
He's always like that. I mean, to be honest, we can get into that later. But anyway, just no. Seriously. I mean, he would be able to tell you better than I. But just that he really you kind of can't just be casual about those kinds of things, and touring is a pretty grueling thing, but such a stimulating thing for us. So it's really, really important to present yourself right. We go all out to present ourselves in the proper way on record, and you don't want to kind of let down either your legacy or the audience by doing something second-rate in the presentation of those songs.
How did Tony Bennett's advice work out? Did you start doing that?
I started doing that. I thought, water, what could water,
right.
What's with the water? Yeah.
And what happened?
It works.
So how much water are we talking about?
We're talking about...
I want specifics.
We're talking about gallons.
No, be serious now. How much water would you drink in a day?
I drink, when we're touring, I drink more. Unfortunately, I'm really not, I should be drinking more when we're not touring too. But when we start touring, I drink, I don't know, a lot of those each day.
Again, and I'm asking for specifics, and you're being so bloody vague.
Okay.
So this is, I can't see it without my glasses, 500 milliliters.
Well then,
so how many of those?
Put me down for, a lot of those.
A lot? You can't say a lot. Give me a number, man.
Okay, 12.
No, you're not drinking 12 of those.
Well, okay, on stage, Rob.
Yeah.
No, on stage.
It's a perfectly reasonable question, Russell.
They've seen me how many I drink on stage. So I go through like maybe 4 or 5 on stage.
And now you're drinking them during the day as well?
And then you have to drink them during the day.
Okay.
Then I have a lot of tea before we go on. Hot tea with lemon, honey, and only sold in England. I get Vocal Zones.
Yeah.
Do you know Vocal Zones?
Yeah,
only at Boots.
Yeah.
They raised the price, though. They've gone way through the roof. Also, they have now the black currant flavor, I think it is.
They're nice. Are they Vocal Zones again, or are they the pastels?
No, it's actually it's the Vocal Zone company.
Really?
Is it black currant, or what is the other flavor?
I'm not sure. I stick with the sugar-free Vocal Zone. So.
They're not as good as the traditional.
And what about voice exercises? I saw a great clip recently of Sinatra saying how I like to vocalize. It's not one of the people I do, but he goes, I like to vocalize every day, even when I'm not performing, for about an hour or so, because I figure it's my job and I want to always be ready.
It's good advice. Well, we're recording all the time, and so I'm singing all the time in that kind of way. And because I have a studio in my place, even if he's not around. In fact, better when he's not around. I sing a lot of the songs, and then he'll come in and hear them after the fact. But I think that sort of does the Sinatra thing a bit, where I have an excuse to sing all the time. Yeah. But it does help, because I find too, even when you're starting to do a tour, sometimes starting to rehearse, that even with all that, practicing your voice, something happens when it becomes the real tour, and it just becomes, you're singing harder, I think, and so it becomes better and better and better the more you sing on the tour. It gets stronger, your voice.
Well, Russell, Ron, this has been an absolute delight. Thank you for taking the time.
And we want to just thank Rob too for his graciousness in hosting this evening. It's been amazing.
Okay, but never mind that. Never mind that. Never mind that. So this is the new album, Mad. This is this special cover that does this. You can get. It would be lovely, as I said earlier, wouldn't it, if it were to get to number bloody 1. So even if you've already bought one, why not buy another as a gift for a family member or friend? And finally, as we close, would you show how you feel for these two gentlemen here?